Hey, Agent Peking and Confit.
Hey, Laurent.
Hey, Larange.
That's Agent Larange. I just graduated the academy with my specialization in chemical ordnance.
Sweet. I'll treat you to something on the menu. Let's go grab lunch.
Hello, what can I get you? Might I recommend a salad? It's super fresh and specially made.
No, thanks.
No thanks.
Sure, let me have it.
Yeah, I brought my own salad, but I could use some water.
That'll work. I mean, sure, here you go.
Oh, this is gonna be great. When do I do it? Shh, you'll know when it's coming. It's going to be worth it.
All right, let's go find a seat. We got our lunch.
Okay, so you picked a great time to graduate. Things are really pretty peaceful.
Yeah, it's pretty good, all things considered, though I am gonna get bored.
Yeah, Foul's got that floating egg fortress over the city, but they're just pale imitations of us. We got better weapons and training.
Yeah, the real problem would be those supervillains. I mean, we can handle most anything, but those powers they have are really weird and hard to counter.
Yeah, good thing that idiot in the cape takes care of them. They're too stupid and egotistical to band together anyways. Otherwise, this city would be in real danger. This salad, it feels like it's coming.
Alright, I'll get the bucket and mop. Maybe the salad isn't that fresh. Oh shit! Plants are crawling out of his mouth!
Fuck! No, they're strangling him now! I'll cut the knife with my utility knife. Oh, my stomach. I don't get it. Just have water. Fuck!
4 out of 5 agents prefer having their thirst and lives quenched by a liquidator. Oh man. Oh fuck, I need to warn Jay Gander about this attack. I'll just reach him on the intercom.
What a revolting death! I knew hiding in the intercom would pay off.
Agents, I have received some chatter. Foul is up to something, and we need to raise our oh my god! Peking! Coffee! Larage! All my best agents cut down! I have no choice but to call the only one we have left. Where do I keep those tiny planes?
Gamer needs food badly.
Let's go!
Order up! Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Taste Test. I am the host that yaps in the night, Michael King. And joining me is intern. Yes, wait, well, no, Brandon's not in this episode, so I guess he's graduated to full-on co-host. Ivan.
That's right. Screw Brandon. I've taken over the kitchen.
No more harassment for you.
That's right. It's all me.
It's been a long time coming to make this episode, but we're finally doing it and tackling it. We are playing Darkwing Duck. Fuck, I love that show.
Oh man, this is an awesome show, and this was a pretty good representation of it. This game was. I enjoyed playing it. How about you, Mike?
Absolutely, I was worried that it was going to be some weird discombobulated mess that's like Friday the 13th, where it's just like, let's just throw Jason in the movie, let's just throw Jason in the game, but have nothing to do with the movies. And this one was just like, well, it's got all the villains. We got Saint Canard. We got Darkwing Duck.
Yeah, you've got bosses from the world, most of them. You got Shush and Fowl. You got the same spirit, the same adorable irreverence.
Yep. And
There's a,
I am hopeful and happy that apparently he'll be coming back in the new DuckTales. Although it'll probably be like as a one-off character. But if this leads to a series revival in the next year or two,
oh, that'd be nice.
have you seen the new DuckTales?
No, it's sad to say I haven't seen it, but I loved the original as a kid, and I loved the Darkwing Duck show as well.
This
I had a really
as
good
someone
time.
who's like I've got nephews, so they'll often ask me to put on shows for them. And when I heard DuckTales was coming back, I'm just like, all right, I'm watching this for me. Like, I'm not making any excuses.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check out this DuckTales, see what it's like. And it's got David Tennant as Scrooge McDuck, Danny Pudi from Community as Huey, Bobby Moynihan, if you remember his show Chosen, where he was like a rapper.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got Katie Micucci from Garfunkel and Oates. She's Webby Gale. So they got an amazing all-star cast, and the shows I've seen, they have a tremendous respect for the past, while bringing it in hilarious and irreverent new directions. So I'm happy.
yeah. I did play the Wii U game. I thought they did an excellent job with that as well. A similar respect.
Oh, you mean the
for
DuckTales remaster?
past world? Yeah, DuckTales
Oh, that
remastered.
was fantastic as well. But we're not talking about
We're
that.
not talking about DuckTales tonight. Us get off track? Never.
No, we can't blame Brent.
You can't even blame it on
No,
Brandon.
this is all on us.
Oh, damn. Are we part of the problem?
No.
Self-awareness has hit us.
Responsibility,
No.
no. It's always better when it's someone else's fault.
That's right. So anyway, Darkwing Duck.
Yeah, this is the game Darkwing Duck, not the series Darkwing Duck. However, very good.
And
this
also the NES version of Darkwing Duck. It also came out for the Game Boy. I believe it was ported to the PC as well. Some other
there was one for the
console systems.
Yeah, there was one for the TurboGrafx 16, but it looked completely different.
Right. I think the Angry Video Game Nerd rated that as the worst game for the TurboGrafx 16. But this game, fortunately, was a lot better. So.
Yep, and this one came out. It's a platformer video game based on the Disney television series developed by Capcom. So, you know, when Disney and Capcom work together, they don't often turn out a stinker.
Yeah, a la DuckTales from 1989. They did a similarly good job with this one, 1992, so relatively late in the NES cycle. And by that standard, I was expecting a little bit more, but still, they did a nice job with this, a pretty playable game.
Yeah, it just seems like they even though it was done by them, it seems like they kind of phoned it in, because this was 1992. The Super Nintendo had already been out.
Yeah.
So why they didn't give this a better looking thing? Like, they could have just redone the Mega Man X engine slightly, but now this is a Mega Man 5 engine based game.
Right. They tweaked it a little bit, but yeah, it still looked like something out of 1987 or something. It was one of the things I took a few points off of on the game for.
Yeah, if you're gonna rip off a Mega Man game, rip off Mega Man 2.
Yeah, I think they did a better job with DuckTales, the game that is to say, than this one. But
Yeah,
Again,
one of the key elements of Darkwing is that he's got like a multitude of gadgets in his gun, like a grappling hook, a gas dart, sleep gas, solidifying agents when he's taking on the Liquidator, and that they base it
Right.
off a Mega Man engine. You would think, oh well, Mega Man's got a variety of powers, so will
That's
Darkwing.
right.
This,
Darkwing's got to have up to 8 powers at least, right?
Yeah.
He's got the engine for it. Nope.
yeah, right.
We got one main weapon is gas gun, and then you got 3 special weapons that you can pick up in the stage. The lightning gun, where you can shoot a couple of bolts diagonally in front of you. The heavy gas gun, you shoot a puff of gas, hits the ground, and then it shoots left and right. And you've got the arrow gas gun, which hits hard, and also if it hits a wall, you can use it temporarily as a platform. So they some decent weapons, but as you say, not too many of them.
And even so, I got to take marks off of it right off the bat that you can only carry one of these at a time.
Right. Right. It's got the Castlevania problem in that regard. You'll be going along, be okay with the arrow gas, then you run into something. Wait a minute, where'd I get the lightning gas? Oh, shit. Yes.
Yeah, you're running through an enemy while shooting him. And then,
Now, I will
then
say,
he drops like an arrow and you're just like, fuck, I needed heavy gas right now.
yeah. I will say that generally you were getting the gas with an icon that's fixed in the stage so that if you wanted to avoid it, you could. It was a little easier than Castlevania in that regard. But as you say, you can only carry one of them at a time. And this was a game where you really needed to have some options. If you were trying to play it straight with the gas gun, which I was primarily, it gets pretty difficult. There's some of the enemies that become bullet sponges.
Yeah, and some enemies come at you diagonally, so you need the lightning gun that shoots at a diagonal angle. And then there's some enemies that like really stay low to the ground, so you need the heavy gas. But the worst part is that like you can't select that. You should be able to be like, all right, I'm gonna swap out my arrows for heavy gas so I can do this. No, like it
one at a time.
it punishes you for trying to think on the fly, and it's kind of forcing you to remember. It's forcing you to fail so that you can remember and only go off by memory as to what you will need.
Yeah, and that was also, you bring up an excellent point there. That was also something I struggled with. You kind of had to know the game in advance, and this is kind of an issue with old NES games in the first place. You had to memorize a lot in order to get through it smoothly, but you had to know what was coming up, or you'd find yourself walking right into a guy, and he's running at you, and it takes 5 shots to kill him or something, and before you know it, he's running into you and taking out one of your 4 life points.
Yeah, that is. Oh my god. Yeah. Let's just, before we get into the loves, I think we're gonna have to trash this movie proper, and then we'll dust it off and go, oh come on, you ain't all bad.
That's right.
But yeah, you only have 4 hit points. Period. Not like, well, you gather power-ups throughout the game, like Mega Man does, where he gets like energy tanks.
Right.
Or, his health bar gets extended. No, you don't get to extend your health bar. You don't get to get like another heart with 4 points in it. You don't get any armor. It's just 4 fucking shields, and you can't replenish them. You can't.
Actually, that's not true.
Oh, you get to carry a first aid kit or something?
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood. No, you don't get to carry anything, but there are drops in the level that can restore some or all of your life.
Yeah, but if you're facing a boss, you don't get those drops.
That is true.
So
there is no E-tank.
no, and if you get to the boss and you've taken a hit, you basically have to go back through the level and hope that you don't encounter an enemy that will hurt you, but will drop hearts so that you can go in. And I don't see, like, if this is based off a Mega Man engine, they took out the best parts. Again, a variable arsenal, body armor, or, an E-tank. This didn't have passwords in it, did it?
No, regrettably not. I didn't have to confess I did not finish this game. And one of the reasons I didn't was the absence of a password system. I was able to take out, we should probably get back to some general points. The game starts out with Darkwing getting sent out on assignment by J. Gander Hooter to take out Fowl and their minions. So you have 3 levels that you can select. You're kind of Mega Man style. You can go to the bridge, the city, or the sewers. And
another Mega Man thing that they took out, which I thought would have been great, was that if you gain the powers of the villains you beat, you know, like a water blast when you beat the Liquidator, or a direct lightning blast when you beat Megavolt, or a banana peel that you can use to trip up enemies from Quackerjack.
Yeah. I would have been okay if they went that way. I was okay that they didn't in this. Darkwing being the analog for Batman. Yeah, I was happy to have him with a variety of guns. It, you know, as you say though, not being able to carry all of them at once. You know, being able to toggle between them and only having 3 special weapons was more my complaint. Anyway, once you take out the first 3 levels, then you get access to another 3 levels. And I never got to those second set of 3 levels.
Which boss tripped you up?
It was the sewers level. I was able to get through to the other 2 bosses. I don't think I ever got through the sewer level. And so a password system really would have helped me.
Yeah, especially since, like, if you have a game that's based on trial and error or level memorization, you really, especially this late in the game, they had, like, Legend of Zelda saved your progress, right?
Yeah, it was one of the first games to have an in-game battery save, or in cartridge, I should
and
say.
Dragon Warrior had saves, and you know there were games that could save. This was near the end of the NES cycle. Like,
well, hell, Mega Man 5, yeah, the game that the engine that this used had a save feature, so they took that out for some reason.
Yeah,
I guess they wanted.
All previous Mega Mans had the password system. It was a bad password system as far as I'm concerned, but they still had one.
Except for the first. The first Mega Man did not have a password. It was part of that difficulty as well, but all the rest of them did, so that would have helped this game.
Yeah. Like, for something that's supposed to be intended for kids, this was really brutal.
Yeah, it was not easy. What progress I did make was hard fought. That being said, going, as we sitting here trashing it up and down, I have to say that I did enjoy playing it. Once you got used to the levels, you knew where that one guy was going to pop out or whatnot. You knew to avoid getting the weapon here. It was a fun game.
It does make you feel like the terror that flaps in the night when you finally get your act together and finally learn how to grapple through the construction stages, and just grapple along these hooks with these rolling winches, making it over chasms.
That's an excellent point we hadn't yet brought up. The grappling feature that was a lot of fun. You had spots in the level, lanterns or vines or whatever that you could grapple onto. You could jump while you were grappling. You couldn't walk along it, so to speak. You couldn't go hand over hand, but you could jump. And they had a number of challenges that tested you on that.
It's kind of like if Darkwing just like poured glue on his hand. Like you can stay in place, but you can't really like mantle along the ceiling or along walls or anything. Like you can hold on to something, but that's it. You can't move. It's either you hold on or you drop.
And the bosses made pretty good use of that mechanic as well. They moved a little too quickly, in my opinion. You had to be really quick, getting on the same level as the boss or whatever target you were looking at. You had to be pretty damn quick. But I did like that they made you go from level to level, in large part using this grappling mechanic. That was fun.
Yeah, well, let's get to the bosses. You got Bushroot, Megavolt, Liquidator, Moriarty, Quackerjack, and, well, correct me if I'm wrong, Ivan, but I don't recognize this werewolf guy.
No, this was the only boss that they made for the game. An interesting bit of trivia. He did not appear in the comics, did not appear in the show. And I have to say that really surprises me. He fits perfectly in with all the other, rogues gallery of supervillains. I would have expected that he would have shown up in the show at some point, but nope.
He definitely had the potential for being a decent villain. I mean, think about it. Darkwing fighting a wereduck.
Yeah.
Or getting bitten by him and then trying to find a way to cure himself so then he can cure the other guy and stop him.
Well, maybe it's something they can do when they bring in Darkwing Duck to the DuckTales series. They can have him start off against Wolf Duck.
How they're going to bring him in. Like, I bet like Scrooge is going to be like calling in a favor from Shush, and they'll be like, well, we kind of lost all of our agents, like they're all busy right now, but we got this intern, so like we can send him, but I'd really recommend not doing that because he's kind of energetic and self-centered.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe they'll have Launchpad bring him in. They did have that tie-in. Launchpad does appear in this game as well. He's the one that takes you to each level in his plane. So you don't see him other than that, but he is in the game.
I think a great twist would be like in the new cartoon to be like to have Launchpad not like Darkwing. He'd be like,
that's right.
Hey, seems like a blowhard, Mr. D.
Look down on him with scorn. Yeah. So let's see. Any other general points? Oh, the money system.
Yeah.
Kind of like DuckTales. You're able to find diamonds or gold bars. Diamonds were worth 100 points or $100 or whatever. Gold bars were worth 500. So it didn't really affect anything. It was one of those early NES mechanics that they thought people would, I guess, just want to see how high they could go. It didn't give you any tangible game benefit, but it was there.
Yeah, the useless point system. I mean, like,
I don't need.
I like in games like when you get a certain amount of points, it leads to an extra life, like Ninja Turtles.
Sure.
That gave you a reason to collect some shit.
Many games used it in that way, and I think that would have been a good. Actually, wait a minute. Oh fuck! I think they did do that. I was watching a run through of this. Yeah, as I said, I didn't finish it, so I wanted to see how the ending levels. And I think once you got high enough, you did get an extra life. So I guess it did have that benefit.
Yeah, without save state.
You couldn't do it too many times.
Without save state, you're going to need them.
Yeah, I think you ended up getting an extra 2 if you went through the entire game. So, a little benefit, I guess. But
And
not a mechanic I was fond of.
yeah, and again, as a negative point, being based off a Mega Man engine, what was one of the best parts of that when it came to boss fights? The bosses had a health bar.
Yeah, you could not see the health bar on these guys, and if you were fortunate enough to have the arrow gas, you were generally able to take them out pretty quickly. They went down in about 6 hits. But if you were trying to face them with your standard gun, then it took a long time. And you just kept going and going and had no idea how long it was going to take. Just seemed to take forever because you couldn't see how much progress you'd made.
I will say this about the bosses, though. They nailed their looks and their attacks pretty good.
Yes.
They were challenging.
Yeah, this gets back to one of the main appealing features of the game for me. They really captured the spirit of Darkwing Duck. They got the sprites really well done for the bosses, pretty well done for Darkwing himself. And as you said, they had some pretty good inventiveness with the bosses that matched up with what you would think of as some of the standard powers. You had the bush root telepathically throwing apples at you, via some vine across the screen.
And then that vine would latch onto a tree and spit seeds at you.
Right.
So
you had the liquidator would move around, melding with the water, shooting water up into the air at you.
And then Quackerjack, he'd be avoiding you while running along the screen while Mr. Banana Brain drops, what was it, bananas or rocks at you? Or
Yeah, I'm sorry to say I don't remember, but
he threw stuff at you.
He threw stuff at you just as you would have expected. They did a good job with the bosses. They could have been a little bit more manageable to me, but I thought that they were constructed well.
Yeah, I thought that that if it was like more Mega Man based, that if you could collect powers from another boss, like you could use like a Hydro Blast from the Liquidator to short out Megavolt.
Yeah, they missed an opportunity in that regard. Yeah, upgrading your gun maybe.
If only there was a Super Nintendo adaptation of it, like Darkwing X.
There you go.
And story-wise, again, Darkwing is acting on behalf of Shush to stop Fowl from taking over the city of St. Canard. But, this is just like a niggling point. Most of those guys don't work for Fowl. At most, they worked for Negaduck, and that was on the rare occasion they could work together.
Yeah, they took a little bit of a liberty, but I was okay with that. In terms of the game, you got to have a structure. You got to have a main end boss. They could have made it Negaduck. In this case, they made it Steelbeak, head of the fiendish organization for world larceny.
Yeah, and yeah, they proclaim like Steelbeak to be the leader of Fowl, but if you ever watch the show, Steelbeak is just like upper management, but he's not the leader. It's the
Right.
it's the three shadows.
Right.
We never get to see their faces, but they're the ones that call the shots. But
Well, I guess they figured it was easier to have Steelbeak as the ending boss sprite instead of three shadows that Darkwing would have a little trouble interacting with.
well, yeah,
So-
they'd probably be like you'd see them on a monitor, and they'd be like controlling drones and shit to attack him. And when he destroys their
Yeah.
stuff, they'd be like, "Well, you broke our base, but you won't find us, Darkwing." And then that opens up a door for a sequel. But yeah, I think the final boss of this game should have been Negaduck, because think about it: all this ass you're kicking as Darkwing Duck with his guns and his abilities, and then all of a sudden you face your equivalent, someone who uses his own variable gas guns and can deflect your shots with his cape.
Sure. A la Zelda 2.
Yeah, Shadow Duck.
Yeah. Yeah, I could have seen that.
Again, if they ever do a remaster or a remake of this game, throw Negaduck in there. He's a compelling character.
Yeah, they might do it. They had good success with DuckTales Remastered, and they've had some recent reintroduction of this game itself. It was included in the Disney Afternoon collection for PC, PS4, and Xbox One in this last April. So, yeah, maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe they'll go along the route of remastering or reworking or reimagining DuckTales. Or, yeah, Darkwing Duck.
I know I enjoyed the DuckTales remaster. I mean, voice
Yeah,
acting,
for sure.
redone music. Oh, speaking of music, they really nailed it, at least for the intro theme on this game. But I didn't have any problems with the level music.
Yeah, the level music was all right. It was not anything special, but it was certainly wasn't anything objectionable. They did a nice job of putting in some decent, music to play by. The composer for the game was Yasuoki Fujita, who also did, coincidentally, Mega Man 3, most of Mega Man 3. He also did Little Mermaid. And I'm sure you've played Mega Man 3, had a lot of good music in that game as well. So, did a pretty good job with this game.
He also did Breath of Fire, but that was like a team effort. And then he also did Little Mermaid, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yep.
And he seemed to have retired in 2000, but came out of retirement to do the Solar Man stage for Mega Man 10.
Mm-hmm. So, not a bad composer, certainly. So, let's see. Is there any other general points that we have missed? I can't think of any myself. How about some of the enemy sprites in some of the levels? Did you have any enemies that stuck out to you as being especially challenging or especially cute?
Well, as far as challenges, there was that green son of a bitch that held up a cape that deflected everything except for the brief second when he throws a dagger at you.
Right.
So basically,
Yeah.
you have to make him attack you, and then using your very nominal speed, dodge the dagger that has been thrown at you, and you have to get close enough to him to make him trigger it as well. So you can't just do it from a
Yep.
distance and fire. You got to get up close and like narrowly dodge every knife he throws at you every time.
Right. Right. And if you wait until he throws the knife in order to jump, by the time you land it, his guard will already be up. So you actually have to anticipate when he throws it in order to hit that brief timing window of when he's vulnerable. Yeah, I hated that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
But there were plenty of guys that I was happy to see. Some of them were challenging anyway, but the Rocket Turtle, for instance, I don't know if you remember him.
The guy that throws his own shell at you.
Right, throws his own shell, and then it boomerangs back at you. But while he's waiting for it to come back, he sits there with his arms crossed, head off to the side, a frustrated frown on his face, and he's tapping his foot. I mean, it's just adorable.
Did he have like boxers on, or was he just like naked?
I don't remember. Certainly, they were not going to. I think they might have had boxers on. I know they wouldn't have wanted to have even the appearance of nudity. So any other guys that you appreciated or
It's
struggled with?
been a while, but there were some neat enemies. What pissed me
I have
off
a
is the
few.
ones that just like show up right up the screen and just keep charging at you.
Yeah. The edge screen spawning was difficult with this game for some of the guys. That there was a crocodile that would run at you, would take like 5 or 6 of your regular gas gun hits. So you had to be practically already firing by the time that he appeared on the screen, and you had to be standing still. If you were running forward, you were cutting off your own time in order to react. There was one other guy that I actually didn't face myself. I didn't get this far, but looked really, really frustrating. This like Terminator duck.
Oh,
Where
that
he
guy,
would-
fucking bullet sponge. Good look
Yeah.
though. Gotta give him credit. They nailed him.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what was he, the
Yeah,
Quackinator?
Right. So he would take something like 10 or 12 hits, and at that point, brief explosion of fire, and then you just have the steel skeleton which would charge you.
And
You could defeat him with like another 10 or 12 hits.
but when you do that, he like breaks apart, and then he's just a torso that launches himself with his arms to attack you. So his attack style constantly changes. When he's Terminator Duck, he shoots at you. when you blow his skin off, then he charges at you, and then when you break his lower legs, then he just like attacks you like a flea. So as far as enemies go, he is a real son of a bitch.
Yeah, he was the kingpin of the standard enemies for sure. I'll tell you another enemy that stood out to me. Again, the adorable irreverence of the game coming out in this was the armored mouse. It just wasn't any kind of a challenge. It'd slowly walk at you. You'd have to hit him in the head to knock off his helmet, revealing, tiny little brown mouse head, and then hit that brown mouse head to take him out. But I was happy whenever I saw him because he was just too cute.
Yeah, so as far as like regular levels go, this had enough to keep you engaged. Like it wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna have like the same few enemies and you always just shoot them and you're done. No, you have to think every time you attack these things.
Right, and they took you all over the place. They took you up a building, you're going across a construction site. They took you underground. There was one part where you actually had waterfall obscuring your sight. You couldn't tell where some of the holes were. You couldn't see your sprite, which was creative. Yeah, the levels themselves, I wouldn't want to shower too much praise on them, but they were creative. I appreciated them.
Yeah, and then the bosses, like Quackerjack, he runs along and Mr. Banana Brain shoots stuff at you. Wolf Duck, the one made for this game, he is invincible and he will throw crates at you. And then when clouds cover the moon, he shrinks and becomes vulnerable. Yet, strangely enough, this is when he's at his real worst. Because he charges at you like a motherfucker.
Right. Yeah.
And this is supposed to be his weak, scrawny form.
Right. Well, he doesn't attack you at that point. All you got to do is jump over him. But it's a pretty quick moving fight. As long as you are able to time out when he is throwing a box at you, it's one of the easier boss fights.
But he beat me simply by charging through me in his weak form. I'm able to handle the wolf. It's the duck that keeps killing me. Fuck this guy.
Then you've got the Liquidator, who, as you pointed out earlier, melds around with the water, moves around as you would have expected him to do, reappears in various spots. Has a couple of different water patterns. He'll shoot it up, have it rain down on you, you avoid it. Or he'll have it come up at a diagonal and then shoot 3 different water droplets on a diagonal that can hit you. So that was a pretty interesting boss.
I'm just surprised that, like, again in the cartoons anyway, he has to shoot him with like some rubber cement or something to solidify him. It just kind of didn't make sense that, like, if you eventually shoot water long enough, it will die.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
chalk it up to
I don't want to
the realities of a video game.
I don't want to nitpick, but you'd think that at least that there would be something in that boss area that you could pour on him, like concrete powder or gelatin or something. Like you shoot a handle and it drops something on him that will hurt him. But the fact that your bullets hurt him when they really shouldn't, because that's the whole point of him being liquid, is that he's impervious to arms fire.
Yep. Or at least make it so that you have to have the lightning gas or something like that.
Yeah, like make it so that you obviously have to change your tactics with this guy.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
So you got...
And then you got Moriarty.
Hit some.
And Moriarty is like the thinking, technical guy. And he's an interesting character.
Yeah, this boss was another one that I thought it's not a terribly complicated mechanic, but it was a creative one. You got 2 different blinking lights that are shooting fire at you up on the top level, and I believe there's one down on the bottom level. If you shoot out those lights, he will go and repair the damage, and while he's there, you have an opportunity to lay some fire onto him. You could kind of hit him anyway, but it's harder with all three of them active, and of course with all three of them active, you got that much more fire from those lights coming at you. So you got a clear strategy. I appreciated that guy. Then you got Megavolt. This one was a little less creative. You had Spark running back and forth on the bottom of the screen, so you basically had to be up, either on a platform or hanging on a lantern. And he would occasionally throw up sparks at you and have them rain down, kind of like the Liquidator thing.
Yeah, and then, like, you just shoot him. There's no particular strategy. You just dodge all this shit and shoot him when you can. And
Right.
then you make it to Bushroot, who, again, throws things that mantle onto trees and shoot at you, but you can't seem to stop it beforehand. It's not like you could shoot the seeds in midair and, give yourself some room.
Right, he's attacking you and you can't stop him from doing it.
Yeah.
But he's not too bad.
Yeah, once you figure him out. But the real problem, and you were talking to me before when I was playing this game, and I just thought, oh, I can finally make it to Steelbeak. Like, what's this guy going to do? Charge at me or something? And, oh, fuck, is he hard. Steelbeak is definitely the hardest boss in the game, and he's got two parts, meaning he's got twice the health. When you first make it to the room, Steelbeak is sitting in a control room, and these mechanical drones will attempt to destroy you, and your goal is to shoot the window out, but...
Right, he's up in the top right corner behind a window shield. He's guarded by it. So you've got to use a minor system of lanterns to get up to his level and shoot out the window shield, which forces him down onto the ground level.
The lanterns are near the top of the screen. Like, just in your jumping... Well, you have to jump on one to make it to the other, so... But the hard part is that as soon as you destroy the drones, two more come down right a fucking way. So
Right,
you never get to clear the room to take your shot.
It's difficult. You have a very limited amount of time once you get up to those lanterns to get in position to get those drones out. And that's almost the entire fight right there. Once you get in position and you're on the far lantern, you're able to shoot at both the drones and the window at the same time. And then you force him down and he becomes basically a harder version of Wolf Duck, throwing a safe at you and running back and forth across the screen.
Yeah, and he even grabs a tray to deflect your bullets, which, that's a nice bit of ingenuity. And then he runs forward to Captain America you in the face with the tray. So they give him a nice goon quality.
Well, I gotta commend you for getting through the game, getting through to him, and finishing it up. Because this game, while it had a lot to say for it, had a lot of positives to speak of, it was not easy. So I commend you on that. Well done, Mike.
I couldn't have done it without save states. If I had to play this game on the NES, I would have been like, fuck you, Capcom. You ruined one of my favorite properties by turning it into this Bulletstorm shit stack. Fuck you, Capcom. Fuck you, Disney. Fuck you, Darkwing. That would have been me. But thankfully with save states, I was able to blast through this game before it wore down my resolve.
Yeah, save states saved the day. All right, well, I think we've pretty well described this game, both the positives and negatives.
Don't forget the victory lap. When you beat Steelbeak, it shows Darkwing driving along the bridge like it's been a long night. He's headed home, and he hits a rock and goes flying into the wall.
Right, with him silhouetting against the moon, and they freeze the shot as he's falling off the motorcycle. Yeah, again, the spirit of the game was captured well. Yeah, any fan of Darkwing Duck, anybody that really enjoyed the Capcom games, I would recommend this game. It was not without its flaws, but it had a lot of spirit. So I did appreciate it.
I was happy with it and happy to play it.
Very good. So I guess that would beg the answer, would we come back for seconds?
Not for this game in particular, but if they did like a high def remaster, which would obviously be adjusted for difficulty, and either have like a save log or checkpoints, stuff like that, I would definitely go for that, especially if they like touched it up where bosses had health meters, Darkwing could vary his arsenal. Like, I could see myself playing like a much better version of this game.
Yeah, I would second you there. And I would personally go back for seconds on the NES simply because I didn't get through it this time.
You have
And
unfinished business.
I do have unfinished business. I would appreciate seeing the second set of 3 levels, not just on a video, but playing through them myself. But yeah, this game has a lot of potential. If they wanted to redo it, they could do an excellent job with it. So, would you have any foods that you would compare this game to?
Food.
If you're struggling, I have one.
Yeah, all right.
Okay?
You start first, and I'll see if I should steal it or if I can build on it.
So, my wife, fantastic cook. I'll say this in front. She does a lot of the cooking in the house, so this is not a knock on her, but she experimented one night. She tried a lasagna turkey pizza combination. This kind of weird concoction. Turkey meat, lasagna sauce, pepperoni. Just kind of threw it all together in a casserole. And it was good. You know, it had all those individual components which were all tasty, but it was really soupy without the lasagna noodles to absorb the sauce. It just had way too much liquid. So you had to drain out the liquid. You know, it was a little bit of a gummy concoction. Yeah, the consistency was a little off, but it still had a lot to speak for it. So that is this game in a nutshell for me. It had some positives, but had some definite flaws in the construction as well.
I think I'm going to compare it to a casserole, which is pretty good, except someone put like onions or celery and peppers in it. And I'd be like, if you could just take those out, this would be a lot more palatable.
Or perhaps put in some sausage. Yeah, it needs a little bit more spice. Yeah, I could see that.
But, okay, so for substitutions, I guess I gotta go with Mega Man. If you're gonna play a game that plays like Mega Man, play Mega Man.
That's right.
Specifically
Do it right.
2 or 3.
Yeah, that's a good one. Absolutely. For me, I have a couple of substitutions. The obvious one, of course, would be DuckTales, a similar game in terms of the platforming, in terms of capturing the spirit of a popular TV show. But I would also substitute in Castlevania in terms of the mechanic of having special weapons that drop and having other items that drop that fuel the special weapons. A very similar situation in Castlevania as everyone's familiar with.
And so I guess we're done with Darkwing. It was a good game worth playing. Recommend it. But it had a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, recommended with save states.
Exactly. So I think that's about it. And if you want to hear more from me, you can check out the Playing with Power podcast as you're listening to it on that feed. And you can also check out the Graveyard Shift, Horror with Sheldon and Mike, where we talk about horror movies, and even Ivan is on the Zombieland review episode.
Yes, I had a very good time, and I've listened to those episodes from the beginning. Even if you're not a fan of the horror genre, which by and large I'm kind of not, it's still a good podcast to listen to. Mike and Sheldon are very entertaining, and it's a good listen. I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's what we try to do. Like we don't imagine that everyone has seen every movie we're doing, but we try to make it so that you don't have to. You don't have to see it. Like you'd still have a good time hearing about it and hearing us talk about it. So I'm glad to know that at least for you, we've achieved that.
Absolutely. 100%.
And so what game are we going to be tasting next time?
So next time we will be sampling Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
The original one for the NES.
There wasn't any food in that game, was there?
No, not really. I guess you could say that the boss of the first level was at a bar. There's probably some pretzels or some shit there, but
yeah.
No, there'll be kind of a loose tie-in food-wise. But
yeah, usually
I'm looking forward to covering that one.
Yeah, usually
Ninja
we
Gaiden
try
was
to
one of my favorites.
We try to allude with a food that was in the game without mentioning the game, but there's no food in the game, and saying like, hey, we're going to start a bar fight. Like, shit, how many video games have a bar?
Yeah.
So it's Ninja.
In any case,
it's Ninja Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden.
Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden Smith.
There you go. In any case, looking forward to that. And until next time,
The kitchen
is
closed.
closed.
Yeah, good thing that idiot in the cape takes care of them. They're too stupid and egotistical to band together. Otherwise, the city would be in real danger. Cough. This salad feels like it's coming.
Okay, Brandon, you don't say cough, first off.
Fuck you. I do say cough.
Second, you're supposed to, like, we established that the plant is climbing up your throat, so you have to be garbled and shit. Although your net is so fucking garbled,
he was
I
garbled.
can't really tell.
I also genuinely forgot that I was one that was going to die first. Which is convenient.
Oh my god. You're fucking Ron
was
Burgundy.
like reading it and I was like, yep, there's my
Ron
death.
Burgundy. The city will be in danger. Cough. This salad is coming.
I say cough. Because I really actually thought that it was like, this city will be in real danger. Cough. And then like all of a sudden this salad feels like it's coming.
No, at that point the salad is climbing up your throat, so your dialogue is you extruding words while being garroted from the inside. So,
All right.
Yeah, words such as "this salad feels like it's coming," unless you want like this salad, like that's what I'm doing anyway.
yeah, well, I couldn't hear you,
All right,
so
let's
we'll
try
try
it
that
again.
line again.